How's it, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of Geeking Out. I am once again joined by part of the Montihano family, Karen and Brian, and we are going to be doing another. Uh, this actually I don't think we've ever done one before. I'm not sure. It's called "What Have Been Worth Making," and we are going to be talking about the unreleased Schumacher direct sequel to Batman and Robin called Batman Unchained slash Batman Triumphant. I'm not fully familiar with this. I came across it by accident when just looking up Batman and Robin on Google one time, and it just there's a thing that said unreleased sequel. I'm like, wait, what's this? Oh, okay, interesting. I feel like Brian here probably has more knowledge on that.
Yeah, just being around when it was all active, yeah, and being of age.
And Karen here, I'm sure you'll want to give your thoughts on this whole thing. I have like I said, I have the Wikipedia on the Facebook chat if you want to look more into it. But I guess starting with you,
Right.
Brian, since you're more knowledgeable, how did you come to find out about this unreleased Schumacher Batman threequel?
Well, based on how well '89 Batman had done, Batman Returns, Forever, all those leading up to Batman and Robin, uh, and the fact that you could make a successful quote unquote adult comic book movie, it was all the rage everywhere. So I think I'd mentioned to you in one of the chats that I want to say it was a Starlog magazine that had an
Oh, that's
article.
that's old right there in
Yeah,
itself.
that had an article about upcoming films and stuff, and the planned movies and everything. Some of those are kind of cool to go back and read, but they were talking about right after Batman and Robin. The idea was a complete trilogy of its own films, but they were going to be taking a darker route because if you look at Forever, the initial script was much darker. And it had a lot more of the psychological stuff, so they're going to take that angle and go with it. Now, for obviously Batman and Robin really changed that course and tanked it all. But before Batman and Robin came out, there was the talk of this Unchained Triumphant, and it was a complete story. It was supposed to put all these arcs together and make a cohesive trilogy. So I remember reading about that, and it was like, how awesome is that? We're going to see the Scarecrow. I don't think casting was mentioned at the time. That was all much later.
Yeah,
Potential
she was
casting.
she was still like she was already like by the time 4 years in because she was introduced in the animated series at the time.
Well, with Harley, yeah. So all this stuff that we're going to see, like I said, Scarecrow, a live action Harley. There was just talks about all that stuff, and I just remember seeing article after article. And then when Batman and Robin released, it just turned to smoke. You know, uh, it just nope, we're not doing that, and it just stopped dead. A lot of the benefits of that happening, or that it once again got all our cool stuff into the limelight and the focus of the general population, but then it also kind of put some things farther back because that how campy Batman and Robin was. That was a hell of a hole for serious movies to come out of. But like I said, the
Mm.
first knowledge was just it was everywhere. I mean, literally. It's a long-winded answer to all that. Is it was literally everywhere about all these movies because of how well they were doing. And take it or leave it or how you want on the Burton films or the first Schumacher film. Whatever. It's awesome. It was there. In your case, you said Forever was your introduction, because your
Mm.
age. It did its job. And sadly, part of that at that time, the toys were the big driving factor. So that started making some changes and stuff. And, we kind of lost sight of the writing end of it. But it was
Mm.
literally everywhere Batman, 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 all over the place. So it was kind of nice. Like, yay, I'm not alone. Everybody knows who it is now. But then we got what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might have even been a cinema fantastique or both. Now that I think about it, magazine wise, it was just everywhere, dude. It was crazy. It was
No, I agree. It
for about
was.
10 years straight. It was just Batman was top shelf
I
everywhere.
mean, the fact that this film would have come out in '99, literally
Yeah,
10 years
10 years.
after
Yeah.
the release of the '89 Batman film, is crazy. And I, in a way, looking back at it now, like I consider the Schumacher films kind of a soft reboot, like a modern day sequel, kind of like what they did with Brandon Ruth in the Superman Returns film. How that was basically a modern day sequel of the Christopher Reeve Superman film.
Oh yeah, it was.
I'll give Forever the quote unquote Schumacher cut that never got released. I would give that version of it, yes, but the studio intervention to kind of still make it generally appealing, because look at the stark and I mean like drastic difference between the '89 and Batman Returns. They went two different directions, and then they kind of reined some of that back in. And once again, toys and merchandising was more important than anything else with Forever. So as far as a reboot, I think it was a redirection personally more than anything else. Because remember, they didn't have the origin story in Forever because they'd already done that. You know,
yeah. we just got like flashbacks basically in Forever.
Yeah, but you didn't have it as a live event, and you also didn't have it as a constant, like, oh, you know, every time just drifting off remembering, you know. So yeah, I don't know if reboot would be the proper term for that, but I think a revitalization or a redirection, and then just unfortunately it redirected itself halfway through development with Forever.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And Karen, same question. Have you seen the original? Have you seen Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
I don't know about the Forever one, but Batman and Robin, yes.
I think pretty much almost everyone remembers Batman and Robin the most, because it's just how bizarre it is, and I know we're kind of getting off topic here. Oh, Barbara? Oh, she's not Commissioner Gordon's daughter or wife this time. She's blonde and she's Alfred's niece.
That nobody knew anything about.
It's like, why do you gotta go that route? Why not just stick with, you know?
Oh God.
Yeah, that you can see why it didn't work too well.
Redirection.
Oh man.
Just the wrong way.
No, I agree.
But
good
old cheesy movies.
So, but what did you think of Batman and Robin when you saw it, and how old were you?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm sure it wasn't.
Well, you would have saw it really young, honey, because I exposed you kids to all that stuff way early, and then God, that's a tough question. 2, 3
I don't know the age, but
I mean, the movie came out in like '97, and I remember seeing.
I was born in '98.
I remember seeing the trailer, like watching the trailers, and then there was an advertisement for DVDs and everything, because that was like becoming the hype. Like, do you don't want to like go to the movie theater and rather be in the comfort of your home? Well, here's surround sound, and here's DVDs, and here's this and that.
You know, I'd probably have to say that they were. So, well, Brandon's 2 years older, but I'd say they were probably about that 3 or 4 year old mark when they started watching some of that stuff. You know, maybe not as rapidly as they did when they got older, because they're both real big DC nerds. But does that sound about right to you, Karen? Like 3 or 4, maybe starting to watch that kind of stuff, and then kind of sticking with the bright colors and the silliness and stuff with Batman and Robin is probably why she remembers that one more. That's what I'd have to say.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty true.
Yeah.
It definitely sticks out more in being brightly colored and, like I said, ridiculous.
I mean, Schumacher admitted he wanted that campy feel of like the 60s series, and like how bright and colorful some of the Batman comics were at the time. You can definitely tell, like, and mind you, this is the same guy that directed Lost Boys, mind you.
And Phone Booth.
And Phone Booth was after, like, in 2000.
Yeah, but I mean, that guy's capable of that kind of subject matter, I'm saying. Oh, and falling down. And
I mean, he's like M. Night Shyamalan. He makes good movies. He makes not so great movies, but like, I get it. You want to try new things.
Sure. Well, and then you also have to wonder how much was studio intervention at
yeah, no, I'm sure Schumacher wanted to probably go for a darker tone, but I don't know, because when you think about it, the director's just to direct. They don't really have much other say. It's usually the producers and the writers who like make what it is. He's
You
just
know,
there
whoever's
to.
paying for it, right? You know,
He's
that's
just
what
there.
it's
He's
Right?
just there to direct, and I'm sure had he had more, he probably would have gave it a darker tone like he did with Lost Boys back in like the 80s.
possibly.
It needs a darker tone because, like, what I find in Batman movies now, it's missing something, but I don't know what it's missing. They just haven't been able to blend Bruce to Batman as well as I wish they would.
I mean, the Robert Pattinson film, I feel
Yeah,
like, was
it wasn't
definitely
bad.
gave went back
He's
to that
definitely more Bruce-like.
But
noir
you
type
know,
film.
even with that one, okay, so we go
Yeah.
back to what we were talking about with some of the darker stuff that was cut out of Forever. Then you know, we got the extreme opposite with Batman and Robin, and then the proposed, you know, Batman Triumphant, you know, Unchained, leading up to, you know, the Batman. I think Karen's right. They get really close, but one is always overshadowing the other. And I understand that, you know, Batman's your feature guy and stuff, but it would be nice to see him where they actually portray both of them equally well. The closest that I can think of would have been Affleck. In his Bruce and his
And
Batman.
he was based off Frank Miller's Dark Knight
Oh,
Returns
heavily.
Batman.
Oh, heavily. So they got that about as close as I think as you're going to get. But then again, that wasn't his own film. So maybe they just had to, you know, get the point across as well as they possibly could on both ends, you know, for BVS and for Justice League. But we'll never know because we never got to see that Affleck Batman film.
No.
So makes me wonder who would have gotten back into the cowl for Triumphant if they couldn't have wrangled Val Kilmer for Batman and Robin. Would Clooney have come back in? Were they gonna? I know, like I said, originally it was a planned trilogy, but they already switched Batman once. Were they gonna do it again? You had said before, and I know Nicolas Cage's name had gone in there. Would that have been any better or worse? Who knows? We never got to see it. The core story, I think, was based off of the stuff that we didn't get to see in the previous two films, and that's the problem. That's why we just didn't get that balance, didn't get finality. You know,
I was looking at the script, and it looks, well, what Wikipedia would show, but it looks like they were trying to go for a more darker tone. You know, you got Scarecrow in it. There's no way you can have Scarecrow in the style of Schumacher's Can't Be Bad. I'm sorry.
no, but that's the problem. How can you do that if you already had that switch and you left those darker tones out of the previous two films? That would be off-putting as much as the way everybody got kind of weirded out with Batman Returns, which did the same thing. And look at kind of, you know, whether you want to call it successful or disastrous results, and leaving all that darker stuff out of Forever, and then focusing on, well, letting Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey is one thing, but you can't have two of them. You know, Tommy Lee was trying to meet up to him, so you kind of lost that.
Oh yeah, no.
subplot.
Tommy Lee was just like done with Jim Carrey because I think
Yeah,
that was before Men in Black. I think.
oh yeah, but they were both trying to be the Joker without being that. So what I'm saying is we lost some of the psychological end of it that was filmed. There's cuts of it out there. That when you take those out, you're left with what we got. That's a tough story to tie up when you're going to go the direction that they were planning on going with Scarecrow, with these darker tones, because now you're going a relatively dark film in '89, weird kind of sideways campiness and silliness with Batman Returns. Then you kind of reground a little bit halfway in Forever, but the other half of that was over the top. And then Batman and Robin just goes completely out of out in the weeds with the camp. Where do you go from there?
Well, I mean, and you can tell with Batman Returns, like that had Tim Burton's dick prints all over it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But and like the '89 film didn't really have any Tim Burton aspect. He was just, he was a director, but that had that noir feel of like the comics from the '40s.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. These tonal changes, and unfortunately, with going back and forth like that, and then the failure that just overall just put that big weight on the franchise with Batman and Robin, just halted everything with this Triumphant, which I would have been genuinely curious to see how they would have pulled it off. Even if it got animated, that'd have been cool too.
No, yeah, no. I mean, we went see, for those wondering, well, first, Karen, I got to ask you. So when I mentioned in our group chat, you're familiar with Courtney Love, right? The ex of Kurt Cobain and blonde and an actress
Yeah.
and everything. So I told you, she was eventually going to be Joker's daughter, Harley Quinn. She was to be the first live action Harley Quinn in the 90s. What are your thoughts on seeing Courtney Love? I think she was in her 20s at the time, like late 20s.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on seeing Courtney Love portraying the first live action Harley Quinn? Had this film actually come to fruition in theaters?
Well, the nice thing about if you start new and you're like the first live action character, you can kind of make it your own and have that be a base plate if it's done well. So I don't know. It would have definitely been interesting to see her take on it. Like, do you go more crazy with Harley, or is she more like calm and the collected person you first meet before she goes all crazy and meets the Joker? Like, depends on what kind of origin story they were gonna go with on her character.
Mind you, she was supposed to be his
But the crazy
daughter.
version.
Well,
His
apparently she
daughter.
was supposed to be, which we wouldn't see her as Joker's daughter until the god awful Gotham Knights short-lived CW series.
Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely do a lot with it when you kind of alter the story, kind of like in when Martha was the Joker and that everything was kind of reverse.
Oh, and
Characters being
oh god,
misplaced.
what's the name of the comic, Brian?
Yeah, I can't remember either, but
Flashpoint Paradox, it was called.
Oh yeah.
Flashpoint.
Yeah.
maybe
Flash.
do something like that. So it's the same but a little different, and it's missing that dark theme. It needs to be a little grittier, not like. To me, it shouldn't be like Spider-Man. You know, he's not the neighborhood friendly Batman. He needs to be more dark and grittier. Like parents were murdered in an alleyway, and you want him to be all smiley.
So would you apply that to Harley then? That
I think so.
I don't remember seeing anything, Wayne. Maybe you saw it, that whether or not she knew she was the Joker's daughter, or is it something she finds out later on in life after she established her career? Did she have a mental break? See, how do you handle that? I think would determine how that performance would come out. Like what Karen was saying, you get Courtney Love in there and her take on it. At what point? Because Courtney was a good actress. I mean, she did some good stuff. So I'd be kind of curious. I never saw anything on that, whether or not she knew from the beginning or found out later.
No, I looked at all it said is just her and Scarecrow team up.
And then
so
it was going to be his daughter. Or
if it was
really going to be his daughter.
Or was it news clipping or,
yeah.
And it doesn't say who the mother was because the only love interest we see prior in the 89 film is the blonde chick that he tests the makeup on, and she basically just kills herself because she found. So I'm guessing Harley Quinn was born out of wedlock.
Okay, so then she gets raised by a single mother, goes to school, betters herself. Like they raise themselves out of the
who knows? It doesn't that's what confuses me. Like, how are you just how are you going to add that in? And because by then everyone was introduced to Arlene Sorkin's Harley Quinn, rest in peace, in the animated series.
Okay, so you know how you would do that, and it would still fall into what Karen was saying about how the performance is because of how Courtney Love was manic and hyperactive and this and that, and then really solemn in some of her roles. So you semi B plot follow Harley Quinn for whatever reason, either she gets a grant from Wayne Enterprises or something like that to go to school. She becomes a psychologist under Bruce's direction because he notices how intelligent she is and she's a top mind in her field for that. Gets her commissioned or assigned to Arkham, right? And because she's so good, she gets to go and analyze the Joker. And during that conversation, that either something comes up and he mentions some lady that he, got busy with back in the day, and she makes a correlation that it's her mother, or he psych jobs her into thinking that she is his daughter, and that's when Harleen becomes Harley, whether it's his real daughter or not.
So, so the thing is, she gets revenge on Batman for killing Joker. So this is after the events of the '89 Batman film.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, that would be one way to, that's the direction they were going to go. But I'm saying, but as is, how would she have found out? Was she truly his daughter? Was
probably found out through Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow.
So then does that make it real? Was he psych jobbing her? I
Right,
wish
then-
some of these details were in there because it was the
The,
script
wik,
was
the,
like,
wik, the Wikipedia pages do not give a fucking clue on hint on that,
no, it's because
which
it was
kind of
so
pisses me
little.
off.
There wasn't much out. It was a core of an idea. Like I said, in the magazines and stuff, it was an announcement and they were talking about a direction. So, man, depending on how they went, and I'm with Karen, I would be generally curious to see her take
But
on it.
it
Which
seems
direction
like
are they gonna go?
it seems like the studio was pulling what they did with Batman and Robin, like how, oh, Barbara, she's not Commissioner Gordon's wife like in the Dark Knight comics. She's not his daughter. She's Alfred's niece.
Yeah.
And that's how I was introduced to Barbara Gordon. So imagine my reaction when watching the animated series. Like, wait,
Oh, sure.
I thought, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She's blonde. Her name is Barbara Pennyworth or whatever.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
she's
Was it
Alfred's
Wilson?
niece.
Was it
and
Wilson or
she-
Hamilton or whatever? That was a weird.
And she
thing.
got kicked out of boarding school because she was off riding motorcycles. And
Yeah.
so like,
And
I mean,
Interesting.
don't get me wrong. I like. I mean, I like Alicia Silverstone. I think she did an amazing job as Barbara coming off. Plus, she was coming off from Clueless at the time, so she was like the main stage name in the '90s.
I just, like I said, with the change in direction, I would be honestly curious what it would have been like had we gotten to see some of this. But then it would be who wrote it, at what stage in everybody's life would it have been taking place? Because if it's Courtney Love that was, so let's say Courtney was going to be cast. It wasn't just a proposed casting. It was her. So she's in her mid-20s. How long had she known that she was Joker's daughter? Was she raised by him? Because that raises a lot of questions there. If she did know from the beginning and was raised by her mother, or just like the Arthur Fleck thing in the recent Joker that we saw, okay, was it something like that? Where
That's a good question.
See, now that could have actually been lifted from this idea too. I don't know that, but see, it could have been a situation like that. One of the Joker's groupies just tells her kid, because instead of being Bob the Goon that got shot in the face, or somebody else, your dad was the Joker, look what he did, or something like that. Whether that was the case or not, it could have been just some random guy she picked up at a bar. Is that the direction we go? And it turns out Harley isn't his daughter, but she thinks he is. I would have loved to have seen that if they could have done a character study or a psychological thing like that. And
Plus,
then there's performance,
Plus, with the route that they were going, especially what they did with Barbara in Forever, I doubt they would have made Harley a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
so
they made her something. Karen, input. How do you think they would have? Because you briefly talked about it. Because if you've seen Batman and Robin, Barbara Gordon, no relations to Commissioner Gordon. Complete, pretty much same name, same character, but just different backstory.
Way different origin.
Do you think this version of Harley Quinn would have had a different backstory instead of being a psychiatrist and working at Arkham and blah 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 blah?
Yeah, I definitely would have been a different direction, because if she doesn't meet Joker at the asylum and become that version, then how does she become it? Because people just snap all the time. So I want to see something real, something relatable that people go through. That would make it cooler, because more realistic. And you have that grittier version too. I feel like that's what's missing in the Batman franchise. It's not gritty enough. It's not dark enough.
Yeah, because I don't know if just showing her in full-on Harley Quinn outfit would have been the smart way to do it. You would have to have some lead up to that.
Trigger, she reads. Yeah. She probably finds out, and then that's when she snaps or
opens an old trunk in the the old trope of opening up a trunk in the attic and sees all these newspaper clippings or something like that. Or like I said, her mother was crazy out of that, and then she just loses her shit. Yeah, something. That would have been. Yeah,
I would like to see it.
And I'm with Karen on that. There does need to be a little bit grittier edge, like the way we saw in the Joker, but thrown into an actual Batman.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. I know the Batman was close.
Batman
was close.
Look at the animated series. We didn't know that Harley Quinn at first was a psychiatrist. We didn't find out till way later in the animated series. Yeah. Oh, she's a psychiatrist. this is how she came in love with the Joker. We're just
What's
boom
that way too?
introduced to someone in a Jester uniform with a great voice, by the way. Again, Arlene Sorkin, great job, Bruce Timm. Um, this now my next question. So I was looking at two different Wikipedia versions. So originally, their idea was to bring back Coolio from Batman and Robin to be Scarecrow, but then apparently they changed it to Nicolas Cage, who was supposed to be Scarecrow. So, Brian, thoughts on either Coolio or Nicolas Cage being Scarecrow, and would he have been the Doctor? Would he have been the Doctor Crane, like he was in the comics, or would he have? Because they changed. They like to change to the villain's origins in the Forever um
I remember
and
reading all this stuff about Coolio back in the day. Uh, Nick Nick Cage. See, that's the thing. Coolio might have pulled it off, and it would have been a nice urban direction to go. And I'm not just saying that because he's a person of color, just because the way they would
he
have
was
gone.
also he was also because he was also big in the 90s too.
Yeah, and it would have been a little bit more of a grounded performance. But between the two of them, because Nick Cage at that time wasn't the Nick Cage we know now. He wasn't extreme. He had a couple really over the top films, but not all of them. So
not to mention he wasn't able to get his role as Superman in the Tim Burton Superman film, which was actually supposed to tie in with I think the modern day
or the whole "this is why Superman works alone" and blah 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 and all that too.
Yeah.
Gosh, so based on the comic looks and stuff like that, neither one of them really fit it perfectly. But I would give maybe the energy at that time to possibly Coolio's performance, because he would have brought a different feel to it. But then you have the acting chops and some of the stuff that Nick Cage can do, well, that only Nick Cage can do. But then again, he hadn't refined all that at that time. I'm kind of torn on that one because I would have loved to have seen how either one of them approached it.
Because Nick Cage also just came off of doing Face Off with John Travolta.
Yeah, and you saw how extreme that was. Like I said, he was just starting to get into that over the top, on the Nick. Of course, Kiss the Vampire and some of the others were already out by then.
And
but I'd almost have to give that one to Coolio, because I know what Nick Cage can do. We never got to see Coolio do much other than that.
He was just a one-off character. He was also a one-off. Wait, Coolio was in Daredevil?
The director's cut. Yeah, he was on trial.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's in there. And Coolio was in Batman and Robin as the guy who was running the illegal races.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting to see like a street thug type Scarecrow.
That's what I'm saying. Getting maybe he was a bathtub meth chemist or something like that, and it went bad, or he was trying to make
We're not stereotyping people. We promise.
No, nothing like that. I mean, but it's a great origin. Leader, and there's money and drugs. I mean, it's just a thing, and
could have been like a Walter White type thing.
Yeah, and that's a part of the Batman mythology and stuff. So maybe he was trying to do something, or got exposed, or sold some bad stuff, whatever direction they went in. And he said, "Hey, I can do a lot with this stuff because it messes with people's minds, and he's a smart guy and can start taking over." I'd have been totally down with that. That'd have been great. And then that puts that reality, like Karen was talking about. So yeah, my vote would have gone to Coolio on that one if they'd done a more urban or street level origin and brought him up.
And then Scarecrow and Harley Quinn team up to drive Batman insane and get him sent to Arkham Asylum.
Because they're both ground level and work their way up. Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me of that episode where Batman. It was the animated series episode where Batman inhaled Scarecrow's toxin because he's trying to stop Scarecrow, and he ends up at Arkham because he thinks he sees Robin while driving to Arkham Asylum. Yeah. So Scarecrow's going to poison the water supply. And then there's that scene in the animated series where he's hallucinating all the characters. So it seems like they were taking some aspects from the animated series as well,
which also borrowed from the Arkham Asylum comic or the graphic novel and a bunch of the detective comics at the time. So
which then they would implement
newest ideas, just how you present them.
I mean, look at the Arkham games; they all took from different sources of the comics, other movies. animated series and everything. So that's what this kind of was doing, but was never shown. So like years later, it's like, oh hey, we're gonna since this movie was never taken, we're just gonna take little snippets and just put them onto our own thing.
Cool. At least we get to see it in some capacity, right?
Yeah, I still would have loved to, I would have loved to see Michael Goff return. Apparently, Commissioner Gordon's actor was supposed to return as well.
Pat Hingle. Yeah, who knows on that one. But
Him,
I'm gonna double down on that one. I would have loved to have seen a more urban / street origin of the Scarecrow with Coolio on that, because I don't know if Nick Cage could have pulled that off as convincingly back then.
No,
But I think Coolio could have done it. I mean, I love Nick.
I would have. Oh yeah.
But-
No. Plus, I would have loved to seen that bigger cave that Alfred mentioned at the end of Batman Armor. We said we're gonna need a big.
Yeah, the expansion or whatever he was talking about.
Like,
yeah,
I would have loved to see. I would have loved to like. I wish they would have shown like storyboard arts or like miniatures of what these sets would have looked like and everything.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Well, it already had to be huge to begin with, because I mean, look, well, you had that plane that hung upside down in the one. Then the car came up, right? And like, if you think of Batman and Robin, the car comes up, takes off,
and then the motorcycle
comes up. That place has got to be huge already. It's already got to be huge. So I don't know how much bigger you could make it, but yeah, no, it who do you think though, Karen? Now, between Nick Cage or Coolio, what little you know about both of them?
If you're wondering who Coolio is, he had the weird cornrow sticking out of his head.
He's awesome. He's
he was
great.
getting into acting. But what about Nicolas Cage? From what you see, Nicolas Cage, I mean, and now Nicolas Cage is
that's the
different.
tough one, because we all have Nick Cage up here from the past 10, 15 years. It's hard to imagine.
I was raised on 90s Nick Cage, and seeing him like in modern movies today, like Renfield or the Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff Willy's Wonderland, where he's
Willy's
like
Wonderland,
silent.
Right.
Perfect performance. Yeah.
I
mean, I go back to Valley Girl, Peggy Sue Got Married, all his early stuff. Raising Arizona, which is one of my all-time favorite films. Yeah,
and then the one where he was with Cher.
Moonstruck. Yeah.
Yeah.
They took my hand. Yeah, that was a great one. Yeah.
Not the bees.
So she's unfortunately doesn't have as much exposure to Coolio because he wasn't in the limelight as much. So I don't know. Are you biased to Nick Cage because of that, Karen?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of Nicolas Cage and his acting.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Because to me, he's just a little too cringy. But
fair enough.
That's just my opinion.
No. That's a valid response.
If he acts like Face Off, excellent movie of Nicolas Cage. I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if he took like some of that darker stuff and mixed it, I think he could have done a good Scarecrow. But also depends on how insane you make Scarecrow. Like, is he just
what the costume would have looked like too?
Yeah, or like is he injecting himself to figure out the fear serum? Like, that kind of thing.
Honestly, that's really because from what I've seen, nothing prior mentioned about Scarecrow. So this might have been like what Karen said. Scarecrow either tested it on subjects or himself, or first himself, then to find out, and then how does Harley Quinn and him get the jump on Batman and inject him with the fear toxins to send him to Arkham?
That just sounds like a cool
story.
story.
Or that is a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, where when he injects the fear serum, he turns into Scarecrow. Becomes a psychological bent there, or watch them both meet in a rehab clinic or something like that. That's where they have to go, and it was funded by Wayne Enterprises, and they had to close it down, and that's why they got
nothing in the Wikipedia.
No, it doesn't. That's like directions.
And again, what would have? Oh shit. Now I remember about Batman Unchained. I remember seeing someone made a fan thing of it was a photoshopped fan edit of Courtney Love wearing a Harley Quinn outfit, but this one was like different. It's like a clown outfit, but in the style of Harley Quinn. and
Okay.
she was holding a sledgehammer.
Oh, see, that's kind of a cool idea there too. Once again, grounding it back down.
I remember
see-
seeing that fan made picture years ago. And I thought, oh, someone was saying that Courtney loved Harley Quinn. Fuck, I forgot about that picture. I gotta
Okay.
find it.
Well, one of
I gotta
the
fi- I
sad things about all of this, though, is that we're talking about stuff with a much darker undertone than what
And
we
who
are
knows what
left
the
with.
and who
Batman
knows
and
what the
Robin.
budget would have been?
Well, if Batman
Because
and
you're
Robin
wanting,
doesn't even half as well as Forever, probably pretty substantial.
and not to mention, it probably would have been bigger because you're wanting to bring back, you're wanting to have. Well, I honestly, in my personal opinion, I doubt they would have brought back the original actors from the previous films. They probably just would have hired some no-name actors or actors who were just starting out to film these characters just for the hallucination scene. Because I doubt they would have been in the hallucination scene for long to begin with.
Yeah, the one thing I had seen a rumor about was Jack Nicholson showing up and a few of the others, but I, don't know. But all I'm saying is that, with all this stuff, it's so much darker than what Batman and Robin left with you. So how much of a disparagement between the two of those would that have been, and that much more off-putting? But the thing is, in the end of all of this, Batman and Robin tanking was a huge help because it helped promote a reboot if you're going to be able to get popularity back, and that's where we led to with Christopher Nolan. Now, I remember hearing forever ago that Darren Aronofsky was originally going to be behind the Dark Knight trilogy.
Who's that?
But whatever happened there, he did like Requiem for a Dream, the Tree of Life. He's the Pie. That he's a director. He's in The Lobster. He does some really interesting stuff.
Wait, The Lobster with Colin Farrell? The indie film?
That's Darren Aronofsky.
That's a weird fucking. I seen the movie. That's a weird fucking film.
It is weird. But the director, he's got a very distinct style. He's almost like David Fincher, which, oh man, I think he was up for it too. Or maybe not. I think Alien 3 might have screwed him up on that one. But one way or the other, it failing helped in some ways bring the DC universe back into the light with Batman Begins being darker, because it's like, okay, this didn't work. We got to go this route. Now, had we seen Batman Triumphant / Unchained or whatever, would that have started the dark times, so to say, and been a little bit more grounded in reality, and they could have had a light year head start ahead of some of these other guys? Possibly. But I think just that tonal shift between Batman Returns, Forever, having itself half and half, and then Batman and Robin just being, just burying the needle the other direction is what screwed all this up. So it's sad, but it also opened up us to get Batman Begins, and it's back and forth. And when you throw names like Courtney Love in there, you throw Coolio, they obviously were thinking of more along realistic and like Karen was saying, more gritty origins to all this stuff. I mean, do you think that would have been the direction to go, Karen? Like you were saying?
I think so, in my opinion, because
from start to stop,
yeah,
keep it down and dirty from start to stop.
Yeah, because I feel like that's what's missing. It's not
plus
they're too focused on the hero part. Like, how did Batman really become Batman? He not because of he was the hero. Yeah, because parents got murdered in an alley. So psychologically, somewhere, I guess, another personality developed, which would have been Batman. So he doesn't kill people, but he beats them up. So it's still dark. You don't have to go super uncomfortably dark with it, but just enough to be relatable.
Something I remember reading, and I think they used it in the comics, but I want to say there was a line in Forever that got taken out, and it was about why Bruce had taken Robin in. And in the comics, the idea has always been that seeing the anger, hate, and abilities and determination of that boy is that Bruce was wanting to put a control on it because he did not ever want to see that coming the other way, right? Rather keep my enemy super close, more potential enemy than that kind of thing. The friends close, enemies closer, because what would happen if that boy had gone down that path? That'd be one hell of an enemy coming at you the other direction, right? So there was a line in there, something about like along those lines that they took out, which is why he took a 35-year-old man as a ward, in Forever. So you take, like I said, you take some of those dark tones out, we're left with like what it could have culminated in with this Triumphant and Unchained. But I think, Wayne, what happens when they did those tonal shifts, like I keep saying, and they removed some of that, it made it harder and harder to get to that end, which is why we didn't see a Scarecrow for a long time. We didn't see Harley for a long time, because they had just left that out in the dust, and it took till Batman Begins. But it's also a good thing, because it was just like a regroup and let's refocus. And in the meantime, the cartoon series was still doing its thing. You know, comics were still doing really well. The character
Margot
was still
Robbie,
fine.
and then in 2016 we got Margot Robbie, which I think she's a phenomenal.
Yeah, she
for
did a
Harley
great
Quinn.
job.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, like I said, it opened a lot of doors, as many doors as it closed. And I've just been a fan my whole life since I was a kid. No, granted, not as much as Spider-Man, but still been a huge Batman fan almost my whole life.
Same.
But just being there at ground level, being there opening night in '89 when the first Batman came out, was there for Batman Returns. I remember walking like 2.5 miles to the theater.
I think everyone in their mother-in-law was ready to go see because prior to that, the only other Batman film to come out was the Batman film in the 60s.
Yeah, Batman the movie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it did its job in that in all those regards, but this one that we didn't get to see, there's a whole lot of that. What could have we did? What should have we done? And
so there's another thing I want to talk about, which would have been like the key focal point. So in Batman Forever, we see the front gates of Arkham, and we see Dr. Chase Meridian going down that cobweb hallway with Dr. Burton, which I think is an homage to Tim Burton, in my opinion.
It was.
Where we see Riddler in that cage, in the padded cell, and then Batman and Robin comes out, and we see what Arkham Asylum looks like, this giant like tower like fortress. And then we see the guards pushing down, taking Mr. Freeze into his cell and everything. And then the only other Arkham part of Arkham Asylum we see is the room where Bane takes that guard out, where it has all the clothes of like the previous inmates. What have we seen more of Arkham Asylum and Batman Triumphant though? Like, would we just see more than just like two parts? Would have seen more of the exterior? Would we see it more inside? Because I would have loved to have even grown up as a kid watching Forever and Batman and Robin. I would have loved to see more of Arkham Asylum, especially how it looked like a giant tower, and you got the canyon with the water at the bottom when they jump out and Batman and Robin escaping from the guards.
Okay, so what you're wanting to see, and what I briefly touched on earlier, is you're wanting to see a live action version of the graphic novel Arkham Asylum that Simon Bisley did back in the late '80s, early '90s. Okay, because that's what it's all about. Batman gets locked in there, and he goes basically hall to hall to hall. Clayface is there, Killer Croc is there, at all of the rogues galleries, and he's got to go through them all to get out, because they're like
what they eventually would have done, which they did back in '09 with Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, pretty much. But this was way before. So what I'm saying, you're talking about seeing a live action version of that within the confines of this story, and that would have been awesome. You don't even have to like go down to each cell and see them like they did in the animated series. Like where Scarface and the puppeteers sitting there. And,
when Maxie Zeus is being taken to his own cell.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily see all that, but let's see more of the inside. And it's like, okay, who's the stranger of all these people? The ones in here, or the one bringing them in? Because dude running around in a bat costume. So we go back to Karen's psychological stuff. That would have been great, Wayne. You're absolutely right. I would love to see more of Arkham.
Plus, apparently Batman would have been hallucinating in Arkham Asylum, from what I read.
And that would have been phenomenal. And we got denied all of that. But yeah, I think
that's the stories we need.
Yeah, but you could make all this tie in together with no problem.
Like it's like basically as we're talking, we're coming up with our own version of what could have been.
Well, because the seeds were all there with what they had proposed, and like I said, the biggest problem was taking the darker tones out of the previous two films to not get Karen her gritty, movie that would have been, and I think that's the direction they were going to go. Then we
Yeah,
also
no.
didn't get to see
Which would
everybody
have,
else.
like you said, which would have been a total shift change from what we saw in Forever and Batman and Robin,
Yeah,
which was just
and you can't do that.
campy, and
They
then
did it with
the weird,
Titans,
and
the
then
TV show.
huh?
But that's only because everybody else crawled, so those shows could walk, honey. That's the thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying they
There's
went
stuff had to
darker with that. Like the first opening scene is Nightwing saying "fuck Batman." So like, why
Yeah.
can you do it with Nightwing, but you can't do it with actual Batman?
Okay, because like what we're saying, all this other stuff had to happen to be able to allow
Yeah.
that. So like Wayne was saying, if we had seen what we did, what we could have in Arkham Asylum, would opened up doors like, oh wow, okay, we've got all this stuff going. You've got these darker tones, you've got this redirection. We get to see that it's not just.
By the way, Warner Brothers, I would still like to see a series based on Arkham Asylum. Just saying.
Oh man. Yeah, do a lower decks version of Arkham Asylum.
except showing the main people of Arkham, show like the other inmates of Arkham, like Great White,
Isn't there a
you know,
gold face or gold mask or whatever his name is? He
Black
wears
Mask.
like something like that.
Well, you could do all kinds of cool stuff. Like I said, do a lower decks version where it's just like what do the security guards do every day, or the administrators, or something like that. Orderlies, you know.
Oh God! Oh man! Again,
awesome.
so I guess finally, get close into this. Starting with you, Karen. Had this movie been made and released in '99, and most likely by then people would have rented it on DVD because the DVDs were becoming more popular in the late '90s, early 2000s. The VHSs were becoming a thing of the past. Would this be a movie that you would have watched on DVD? Because I mean, or had your dad taken you to see in theaters had it been a thing?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I definitely would have. I mean, I probably would have been a little too young to remember if it had happened, but yeah, I definitely would have been up to watch it. I like the darker stuff. That's why I like a lot of thrillers and stuff because it plays with your mind. That's what I like.
Oh, and this film would have had like a very dark horror tone, especially when you have something like Scarecrow involved.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen it. Yeah.
Same question for you, Brian. Had this movie came out and as it was supposed to in '99, would you have seen it in theaters?
Oh, okay. Having the benefit of age, that is a very tough question because of having. Okay, so I know I get long-winded sometimes. I'm just passionate about this stuff, but having been day one at Batman Returns, Forever, and then
so you saw all these movies when they came out in theaters the first day.
Yeah, dude, I'm 50 years old, man. I was there first.
I know. I'm just saying though.
Yeah.
Like you got the opportunity to see these movies in their prime.
So, and that's where my answer is coming from, is having seen all those in the theater and then to get hit in the face with Batman and Robin. Now we're also assuming that everything was released as is, no changes, none of the other stuff added in. That would be a hard sell for me. Now I probably would have taken the kids. I mean, hell, I took them to go see Cat in the Hat. Ugh. But anyway,
I mean, Mike Myers did okay.
But I'm just saying, I suffered through a lot of stuff for my kids. It would have been a hard sell for me to go on my own, like I did from when Batman Begins came out, if we had everything leading up to that, and then find out it's by the same people making that third film. That would have been a tough one. I don't know if I would have gone, or I would have thought it'd been worth making because of how disappointing Batman and Robin was. So for me, I would say I would go see it with the kids if they pushed me, but I don't think I would have gone to go see it on its own. It might have been a DVD. It might have been
VHS
on cable or something at best. Because
no.
Otherwise, that was such. We go back to the tonal change. It was Batman and Robin was a tough sell. That was a hard one for me to stomach at the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got the noir feel.
And then we just go the opposite direction.
Batman Returns, you get that dark Tim Burton-esque feel.
Or Frank Miller, which is my favorite writer. On all
Frank Miller, Tim Burton-esque style, and then Batman Forever, you get that campy.
And it just went and kept getting worse.
And then you go slightly campier, but like also the thing with Batman and Robin, it was a mixture of two. Was the thing, campy and dark, especially the beginning scene where Dr. Woodrow basically kills Poison Ivy with all those chemicals, and like, oh wow, this is dark.
But with an
So I remember
over the top performance that kind of took the piss out of the dark end of it, and that's what I'm saying. The tonal feel for that whole film. To find out that they're making a third one, I don't know if I'd have cared.
And then
See,
you're
you guys,
also, and then also you have 3 villains: Bane,
which is too many.
Poison Ivy. It's X-Men 3 all over again.
Yeah.
Well, you got. Well, Bane doesn't really have a plot line. He's just there to
Which
be like
sucks
a
because
henchman.
my Bane from Nightfall and all that's a thinking man's villain. He's an intelligent freaking guy. He's not just burn all the
Yeah,
time.
they just show him all muscle.
No, he's not he's not Arkham Asylum Bane.
No, and Jeep did a great job. He fit the part and all that. Unfortunately, sorry, Jeep. Because he's gone now too. But
you had
that would have
Poison
been a hard
Ivy.
sell. I honestly don't know, but I don't think I would have voluntarily gone to the theater. It would have been
You had
a rental at Blockbuster, or it would have been on cable. I think
you had multiple plot lines for Batman and Robin. You had Poison Ivy's plot line. You had Mr. Freeze's plot line. You had the Barbara plot line. You had the Alfred plot line. You had the plot line where Bruce and Dick Grayson were just at each other's throats because of Poison Ivy, and there's no trust. And this is like, looking at it now. Back then, I loved it. I still love it to this day. It's up there in my it's up there in my top 5 favorite.
He's wearing his nostalgia glasses right now, Karen.
But like looking at it now, every comic book movie when they make, for example, Spider-Man 3, X-Men 3, this one, which technically would have been a 4th one, but they added, like Batman Forever, you had 2 plot lines, but those plot lines intersected.
Yeah.
And this one
had a little sprinkling of a third one with Chase in there and stuff, that kind of went in between the two.
And then Dick Grayson.
Yeah. It was a cohesive story. It wasn't all over the place. You're right.
But then like this one, like you had one wanted to freeze the world to like, I'm going to freeze the world, and you need to pay me money.
No, he wanted to freeze on the ice stage.
You're like, I want you. If you don't pay me, I'm going to freeze the world, and I need this to bring back my dead wife.
Cool.
And then you got Poison Ivy's like, oh well, when he does this, she's basically using Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Like, well, when he's done with his thing, he's like, I know him, and I know the Batman is gonna get him. So when they do, I'm gonna turn the world into one giant rainforest. I guess
extreme of motives, I think, for 2 characters to be in that kind of a film, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no. Looking at it now, like I'll still watch it, but like looking at it now, I guess last thing.
No, hold on. You didn't answer. Would you have gone and seen it?
Would I have gone and seen it? And well,
yeah.
Let's see. This was 99, so I would have been 6.
So that's a definite yes. Right?
Well, opinion if my mother would have taken me. If not, I probably would have waited for it to come out to video rental, like out of Blockbuster or Hollywood Video.
Okay.
Or DVD. Would I have watched it like in theaters? I probably wouldn't have been able to watch it, but like had it come out on cable, VHS, DVD at the time,
rapidly, right?
Aging myself here because 99, early 2000 was like DVDs were on the rise and VHS was on the decline. So
the availability would have been there, and you probably watched it rapidly because you would have been the age.
I probably would have.
Yeah.
I probably would have because I loved Forever. And by this time, I already had seen the '89 Batman and Batman Returns, Batman and Robin. So I already seen the other prior, Batman films.
And at that age, Wayne, that's what I was talking about.
I probably would have. Honestly, I probably would have loved it because it's a Batman film, and I was raised on the dark, gritty Batman because of the animated series.
And there it is.
Also.
Who cares if it's good or not? Mommy, I want a Batman toy. Buy me a Mr. Freeze toy.
Oh man, it would have been interesting to see like a Harley Quinn toy or a Scarecrow toy.
And there you go.
And who knows what the Batmobile would have looked like for this film too, because the Batmobile always fucking changes.
Could you have gotten any more ostentatious than the one in Batman and Robin, the one that looked like H.R. Giger designed and stuff?
Oh god, with the dorsal fin.
Forgot about the
But
dark.
we didn't even, we didn't even go into that stuff. Like, they would change. Would he have just constantly had the one-use gadgets? Because not knowing what the plot line would have gone into with this Batman Triumphant, maybe they would have stripped him of all that, and he'd have just gone in there just wearing his,
And
his,
would he have been wearing the Batman suit, or would it have been Bruce Wayne? That's another factor.
Man, I'd love to see Bruce, and then Batman's Triumphant,
And
because
plus,
Batman's the one that saved the day.
I like George Clooney. Not a great Bruce Wayne, but a great Batman, though.
Sure. And I would have seen, there you go. He would have gone into it as Bruce and then came out as Batman. Batman Triumphant, Batman Unchained, all that. Awesome.
Who knows what would have been the thing? But like I said,
I think it would have been worth making, though, if they had gotten certain things right.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Karen? Do you think it would have been? Do you think it would have been worth making had they gone through with it?
If it was done right, yes. You need more nerdy people to make the films because they kind of know what the audience would want. So yeah, I think it had the potential to be good.
No, yeah,
as all movies.
No, yeah. What about you, Brian? Do you think it would have been worth making had Schumacher and Petrovic or Petrovich?
Yeah. Petrovich or Paratovich.
Last guy with hard last name to pronounce.
I'm with Karen. It's like I was just saying. I think it would have been worth making if it had gone a certain direction. But it's a tough one to say yes and or no because of what we were left with and which direction they would have gone. If they'd kept that campy line throughput, no. Because I don't need to see if I only had a brain kind of Scarecrow, right? Mm-hmm. Which is what the campy version would have been. But then after Batman and Robin, you're going to have a hard time bringing me back in with a serious, Professor Crane with needles on his fingers, jacking, fearsome into people. So yes, with an if, no with a but, I guess is the best way to put that. It realistically, I mean, I know it's a non-answer, but unfortunately,
it's a valid answer because again, for anyone watching, I recommend looking at both versions on Wikipedia, whether it be the one for the Batman Unchained Batman wiki or going to the Wikipedia for reading the plot and seeing the cast for Batman and Robin, because you'll see the thing where it says canceled sequel, and it'll give you the whole fucking plot.
Oh yeah,
it gives you snippets of the plot.
Yeah, there wasn't much out there. I don't know if there was ever a full script written. I don't think. I'm sure there was, but probably a treatment maybe. But like I said, I know it was in development. Whatever the hell that meant at that stage.
It probably they were probably getting ready. Like you said, a lot of movies will, when they're in the middle of making one movie, they'll get ready to oh hey.
Pre-production and getting.
I think they had too high expectations of Batman and Robin.
Yep.
Because it did well, but it didn't do as well.
Yeah, and not well enough to warrant dumping another couple $100 million into it, kind of thing.
Oh God, and who knows? Again, who knows what the budget?
Do you think it would have been worth making?
Me or Ken?
You.
I personally, I mean, after talking about Batman and Robin. And again, I'll have like I said, Batman and Robin is in the top 5 of my favorite Batman anything. Animated series will always be number 1,
sure.
For obvious reasons. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. But personally, I maybe if they had known what the fuck they were doing and Warner Brothers backed them, but from what I'm seeing, they didn't even know what the hell they were doing. They just had a name, had an idea, had cast in mind, and that was it.
Well, see, isn't that odd? Because we're all of the same opinion, because it's all based on what we already had prior. If it was a standalone film, I'd have probably said, "Oh hell yes," no matter what we got. But that Batman and Robin is in all 3 of our heads. So yeah,
but they were wanting. I think Batman Unchained would have been the conclusion to the Batman 90s thing, because again, came out in 89, but I consider it a 90s film in a sense.
Sure.
So I get they had this plan to have an entire, because you don't really see a whole lot of superhero movies where it constantly takes place in the same universe, sort of. But I think it would have been worth making had Batman and Robin had done well. Like
Yeah.
it didn't overperform, it didn't underperform. It was just like it did okay,
Yeah.
but not enough to warrant. Oh, wait, this movie didn't do well. All right, everybody, scrap the idea for Batman Unchained.
Nope. That's it. We're done. Too many problems already.
Schumacher, go work on Phone Booth with Colin Farrell. Get him a career started.
Well, I just find it funny that all three of us, with the differing ages and all that stuff, still have the same answer at the end of all things because of what was done.
It's just like, well,
Such
you,
a
me.
hard stop with that
It's
Batman and
just
Robin.
like you. It's just like when you, me, Myron, and Bob gave our all same opinion for X-Men 3.
Yeah, and all hitting it from different directions, and that's the thing. And then in this one, it's just weird because it's like for me, it was just a hard stop with Batman and Robin because it was not anything remotely close to what I considered my Batman.
Hashtag not my Batman.
Yeah, Karen, from a child's perspective, seeing that as her first one, and then yours being attached to it because that was like your introduction to that type. And then you're still going, well, I don't know, because we could have gone this route, and then seeing that the animated series, what was possible and stuff. I don't know. I just find it very interesting that that's one of those that, like, everybody's going to universally agree. If you've done this before, absolutely. If you didn't do that before, no freaking way.
Could it be done now? Yes, I think it could be potential. I think potentially
done that
with the direction they're going now, especially with Robert Pattinson's Batman and the recently Max series Penguin. I think, in all honesty, yes, it could be done now.
Nope, because you want to talk about dark and dirty, Karen. Watch the Penguin. Watch the
Batman.
I haven't watched the Penguin or especially with the new Batman Arkham game VR game that just recently came out, Arkham Shadow or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So, you think the idea might have been ahead of its time then?
Oh, I feel like it was. I feel like it was ahead of its time because we were getting this is 99. We are literally at the time months away from the new millennium as well. So things were changing. Like we had Spawn in like 97.
Oh, yeah.
And we had
Blade and all that coming
we had again. This is also the 90s, and this is I think the idea of the 90s is they were trying to get rid of they were not trying to really want to have a whole lot of dark tone stuff. Guillermo del Toro got not Guillermo del Toro, but George A. Romero got turned down from doing the Resident Evil film based off the first game.
Yeah.
Which we actually will be talking about in a future episode because I want to talk about the missed opportunity right there.
Yeah, poor George got the shaft on a couple good deals, and then I'm glad they found some of his lost stuff like the Carnival and things like that. But yeah, it was definitely a paradigm shift on a lot of things. But like I said, at the end of it all, this far along and far out from it, to go back and just hit that hard stop with I don't know, because Batman and Robin wasn't the greatest thing ever. I mean, for all three of us to sit
even Schumacher admits, but like you can also tell.
I don't know if you ever went back and listened to the audio commentary.
I haven't. But you can also tell he enjoyed it as well. Again, he's had some hit and misses. Rest in peace. Joel Schumacher. Great director. Great. People from what I've seen. People enjoy working with him.
Oh, sure.
From what I've seen in old interviews. Anyway, I think that should do it. Again, real quick, everyone, be sure to stay tuned when we eventually talk about would have it been worth making George A. Romero's '98 Resident Evil film.
Can we answer now?
Karen, where can people find you on the social medias if they want to stay up to date with your cosplays and your other stuff?
All right. So on Instagram and Facebook, because I think they're linked, it's red_rogue_assassin, and that's.
Is Rogue spelled correctly this time, or is it RO?
It's still
Rouge.
Yeah.
Oh, Rouge. Not to be mistaken with Rouge the Bat.
I made cosplay cards and stuff, so it's like, ugh.
No. Oh yeah. No. The card's spelled correctly.
No, the card is spelled right.
The card's spelled the same as your. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why she did it.
So Instagram,
you get
Facebook.
the idea.
Okay. Brian, same question. Where can people stay up to date with your cosplays, your cosplay builds, and potentially seeing you at conventions?
I'm still on
Oh.
Facebook and Instagram at Luna Stardust, and then with Facebook, I still have the Nightingale Studios up. Just haven't been as active on updating because there hasn't been a whole lot going on other than stuff privately. But otherwise, leave a message. I'm there. You can see some of the past stuff I've done, questions, concerns, all that kind of stuff. Hit me up.
I definitely recommend hitting Brian up if you need any questions about prop making. If you've seen his stuff, it is really good.
Yep.
I'm not just saying that. Like I've seen his props in person at cons. And yeah, you all know where you can find me. You can always find me on everywhere, Twitter sometimes, even though I'm not really active on there. I'm more active, honestly, I'm more active on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
That's sad, but like it's where it's where I conduct a lot of business for what I do for content. But yeah, anyway, as always, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thanks for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.